to Cincinnati Soccer Talk, powered by FC Cincinnati supporters. Get in touch, soccer fans. Email us at cincysoccertalk@spnt.tv. Now, here is your host, Nick Suberling.
Hey, what's happening, Cincinnati Soccer Talkers? Welcome to episode 89 of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. Glad you're with us here on this special Monday night. Doing this a little bit earlier this week due to Halloween being on Tuesday night during our normal scheduled time. So we thought we'd come at you a day earlier. And we hope everybody had a great weekend. Glad to be with you again, talking more and more FC Cincinnati soccer this week. We're going to talk about the roster moves that were made last week that were announced on Wednesday. If you downloaded the podcast last week, we mentioned that there was going to be a press conference on Wednesday morning. There was some news surrounding the team and who was going to be back and who was going to be let go. So we'll discuss some of those moves. And, of course, we'll look ahead to the USL playoffs, maybe dabble into some MLS playoffs. And, of course, we'll get to some listener questions and hit up our mailbag for the first time this offseason. If you want to get in touch with us, you always can. Our email address is feedback@cincinnati-soccertalk.com. You can also hit us up on Twitter as well at Cincy Soccer Talk. Pleased to be joined this week by the Weigel twins. I'll start first and foremost with the one and only Brad Weigel. Brad, how are you?
I was going to start with the older twin, man. Good job there.
How are you doing, buddy? Are you recovering after what happened to your Spurs?
You know, I was pretty devastated Saturday, and I knew that was coming, but we'll let you guys have the home leg. But luckily, the Buckeyes Saturday early evening came back and redeemed themselves. And you know what? I just want to talk about that for a little bit. I know this is a soccer podcast, but the reason why a certain member, YO, is not on board today's show is he's been banned from the podcast temporarily, at least, because I feel like somebody mentioned that he was a fan of that team up north. So he gone.
Okay.
Well.
All righty then. Well, glad to have you back, Brad.
He will not be getting a Christmas card anymore.
Now, well, you heard a minute ago, it was the voice of Brian Weigel. Brian, how are you?
Doing very well. I'm just excited that I was under contract through the 2018 season for Cincinnati Soccer Talk. Brad is here with us tonight. His option was exercised for this year. I just want to let everybody know out there that we are in continued discussions with Bill Wolf and Boston Brazil. And as Brad mentioned earlier, plans for Josef Sagai will be announced at a future date.
Yeah.
If y'all didn't understand that, that's exactly how the press release for Cincinnati's rosters was announced this past week. I just love the terminology.
It was good.
So
I got it. It was good, man.
thank you. Brian, you might have gotten a 2-year deal with that. Yeah, much better intro than my 4 minutes older brother.
Oh, man. Well, glad to have you both back this week. This was really the first weekend, if you count the bye weekends, it was really the first weekend of our off season with no FC Cincinnati games to really look forward to. We know Brad spent the weekend watching the Buckeyes. Luck out again. How about you, Brian? How did you spend your weekend?
Well, it started by ridiculing my brother about his Tottenham match, and then it basically just divulged into my daughter's baptism was yesterday, her christening. So that was just a whole thing in itself. Let's just say she didn't remain silent through the whole baptism. So that was as entertaining to say the least. So, but hey, we're past that. We're ready for Halloween, and we're itching closer to the first game of the 2018 season. So we can look at it that way.
Did you do anything else, Brad, besides watch that game? And you obviously go to the christening of your niece.
That was about it for this weekend. This past week, though, I did get the chance to record a live show. If you listeners haven't caught it yet, I was able to go down to Ryan House for our second EPL special. I want to say thank you to Clay, Jono, and Kevin Jackson for joining me, and it's something that we hope to do here coming up over the off season. Probably going to do another one late November, early December, and we'd love to hear your feedback on what you'd like to hear from us so we can make it even bigger and better next time.
So yeah, make sure you get subscribed to the podcast so you don't miss those special episodes that we do of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. And you guys do a really good job of that. This is two
I
of
mean,
them now.
I got one thing for you, Brad. Just don't have Man United fans on there. Just makes everything better. and moving on, Nick. Just so you know, we are expected to have a FIFA special podcast as well, coming down the pike with Ben Knapp. Ben's been a great help getting those live shows going, and he is friends with a player who plays for Paris Saint-Germain's team. So he's a full FIFA professional, and we hope to have him on a show this offseason. So make sure you look forward to that.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy that that you can be a professional gamer playing FIFA. I'm not that good. I've played Ben. Ben's really good at FIFA.
Wait, this is a FIFA video game. He's a professional video gamer for Paris Saint-Germain. What? Yeah. He gets flown. I think what Ben was telling me, and when I met him the first time, that he got flown down to Miami. I think he gets flown all over the place now as they get this professional gamer league up and running. You know, I'd say that guy needs a life, but it seems like he gets to travel the world for free, or at least at a discounted rate. So good for him. Yeah.
You would trade him any day of the week.
Yes, 100%.
All right. Well, I did. This past weekend, I spent. I froze my butt off. My girls played in a soccer tournament up in Sandusky. It's a really nice facility. Cedar Point owns it. It's called Sports Force Parks. It's probably the nicest tournament facility I've ever seen. All the fields are field turf. They're a combination of baseball diamonds / soccer fields. They could put lacrosse on there. I mean, it's a really top-notch facility. So I spent the weekend there in the freezing cold. My girls are U11, and because I'm an idiot, I did not register us in time, so I had to register them for the U12 age group. That was smart, right? But to tell you what, my girls, they handled themselves well. They won the first game 2-1. They tied the second game 1-1, and then they lost the third game 1-0. I mean, it's not like they went up there and got embarrassed. You know, they hung with the 12-year-olds. So I was really proud of my girls. So that's how I spent my weekend.
Good job, Coach.
Thanks. I did nothing except for just freeze my butt off. So
and scream
and do a lot of screaming. Yes. We had our own Guido on the first game.
Oh,
my head coach got ejected. So yeah. So yeah, there's that. Anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about
competitive.
Let's talk about what happened last week. Some news surrounding FC Cincinnati. The roster moves. A lot of guys who we thought were going to be coming back stayed put. Not really any. I don't think there was any kind of real surprise as far as names that weren't going to be coming back for next year. FC Cincinnati did exercise the options for Matt Boehner, Garrett Hatfield, Justin Hoyt, and Kenny Walker. They re-signed Corbin Bone, Danny Koenig, and Jimmy McLaughlin. And, of course, Josu, who we know last year extended himself during the season. And, of course, Sem DeVitt joined midway through the year as well. They remain under contract with the club. Were you surprised at those names, that those were kind of the core guys coming back for sure next year?
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't want to say I was surprised that some of them were re-upped, because you just look at face value and you see some of the players like a Half Hill, and you go, why does he get, selected to come back over a Harrison Delbridge? I'm sure, some other players, and there's a lot of things that go into it, but you see that he has a role to play. As a good practice player, I think he might have a higher ceiling that he hasn't hit yet. So a guy like him, I think, yeah, you might be surprised at first, but I'm okay with it. I think it's just more the shock that some of the bigger names, the Wiedemans, the Delbridges, weren't re-signed yet. I mean, I'm happy that we got back Kenny Walker and Corbin Bone in the fold. I think that those were probably two of the three more high priority signings, to at least anchor the midfield, your backbone of the team. I like having Matt Boehner back. Just we know he can play in an advanced level, and I know he suffered a little bit of injuries towards the end of the year, but did like seeing him. The only question I think I might have had was Justin Hoyt with his age, and if he wanted to stay in America for another year. Looks like he wanted to by getting his option exercise. So I'm glad to have him back. There's just more and more quality to the team.
FC Cincinnati also announced that they will not exercise the options for Kadeem Dakers, Marco Dominguez, Dallas J, Aiden Quinn, Aaron Walker, and Dan Williams. Contracts for Pat McMahon, Tyler Pollock, Kevin Schindler, and Melee Tim Guia have expired and will not be renewed, while the loan term for Kyle Grieg from Vancouver Whitecaps ended. What wasn't announced, or I guess it was announced, the plans for guys like Harrison Delbridge, Andrew Wiedemann, and Paul Nicholson. I personally thought that it was a long shot that Delbridge would be back next year, because I think he's got aspirations for playing in a higher level at MLS. I'm not saying that he will. I'm not saying he won't be back in Cincinnati, but I know that he wants to at least have that shot. I think he, wants to see what's out there. I don't know if we could say the same about Andrew Wiedemann and Paul Nicholson. Nicholson obviously getting up there in age, maybe getting to coaching down the road. When you heard the news about those three players in particular, what were your thoughts?
Brett, you can go first here. Well, a little bit of apprehension not having Harrison Delbridge back. He's a fan favorite. We want to have him back, but I also understand as a professional, we want him to advance, and I think that's it would be another feather in our cap. Last year we moved Sean Nicoli up. He used this as a springboard to NYCFC. Maybe Harrison Delbridge can do it. I'm not sure. As far as Wiedemann and Nico go, I'd love to have Wiedemann back just because he's a fan favorite, and I think he's flexible. He can play everywhere. Nico, I don't know. I like him as a person, as a player. I don't know if we've seen too much. I'm not sure what the plan is there. I think with Nico, and again, this is just a punditry here, is I'm sure we could probably find a person at his same pay scale that could probably provide us a little bit more diversity, even though he does play a couple different positions, and I do think he's a quality player. I think he's somebody, as Brad said earlier, that you could absolutely be brought in as a guy who develops in a coaching role. Maybe he's the first coach in the FC Cincinnati Development Academy for the U14 boys side. I think that would be something that you could see him progress through, years of getting in this, and maybe him being a head coach of FC Cincinnati in 5 or 10 years. I think that's a great plan. But guys like him and even Wiedemann, I think these are players that you want to keep around the club, just because of the positivity they bring, the professionalism they bring, and just we're going to need more technical roles. And these guys are familiar with what it takes to get to some of the highest levels in professional soccer in North America. So I think they're extremely valuable, and I'd love to keep them here if we can.
Was there anybody on that list of guys that they basically said, you're not coming back next year, that really kind of made you scratch your head? I knew that, Kadeem Dakers did not get the minutes that he was hoping for, this season. Same with Quinn. So those two, I don't necessarily think that those were kind of shockers. Maybe somebody like Marco Dominguez, who I thought when he played, I go back to that game against the Fire. I thought he played really, really well that night. And I know it's tough to crack that lineup, but I guess I was kind of surprised that maybe he wasn't given a second chance.
I think you could add Tyler Pollock to that list of guys who maybe potentially at least earned another year in Cincinnati. And I don't mean to say this, this is kind of humor, but I was kind of excited to see some of the guys that we didn't bring back, namely Aiden Quinn, Kadeem Dakers, guys that we just, I don't want to give them a second chance because they didn't impress me from the start. And I'm glad we can at least pull the trigger. We had some fringe guys that we brought back last year that we shouldn't have brought back. No offense, Pat McMahon. Some guys I'm at least glad that we're just saying, know what, you're not in our plans. It's a tough decision to make, but I'm glad our head coach and our GM made the tough decisions to just get those guys out the door and start anew. And I'm not trying to be negative towards those guys. It's just a sign that FC Cincinnati is not going to settle. We had great memories this year, but the performance on the pitch wasn't good enough. And I know that, Tyler Pollock had a USL game of the week, but honestly, I feel he might be a little bit step slow. And I think that we can get somebody just as good, more likely better than him. It's not a slight to him. It's just that we want to continue to improve upon, that position, that left back position, because I'm not sure Josu is penned in it as the starter on the left back spot. I think, pencil at best, and I think we can get somebody to improve upon that position. They can get up and down that flank, and we could probably take that money we were paying Tyler maybe add a little bit more to it and get a difference maker on that left side.
Well, and it could even be somebody, is what Jeff Birding said at the press conference, that we don't sign anybody in that role till after December 20th, 21st, because we might need to bring in guys, 17, 18-year-old, 19, 20 years old, that can sit on a roster, learn a little bit, and then be there in 2 years once we get that MLS better. Could be even 1 year in 2019. You never know.
I'm going to go back to Pollock, too, because this is a guy that last year, let's be honest, we kind of raked him over the coals a year ago. We were hoping that the team would upgrade him. And then early on, we saw him playing a lot. And I actually think, and we've said it many times on this show, we thought he was really improved. I go back to that Crew game. He was amazing that night. And then the injury happened in Louisville. And then we just never really saw him after that.
I mean, he definitely had good spots at the year. It's just I don't want to use this as a slight against Typo as much as I just think we can improve back there. You know, I mean, look what we did at the right back spot. You know, we brought in Boehner. You know, if we can get a solid player like Boehner on that left side, I think that would be a significant improvement over Typo.
I don't know what you're talking about, man. I think Coach Haley Pollock whipped his butt into shape, and he got pretty good this year. No,
watch you out.
No, she's good. Yeah. Be careful with her on social media. She's feisty. She's good now. I agree with Brad there. It's a tough decision, and I think he's earned a chance somewhere as a professional. But 2 years in Cincinnati, that's not a bad run.
I think one of the bigger notes or takeaways from that press conference last week is that the goalkeeper position and the fact that they kind of really laid it out that, it's not Mitch's job set in stone next year, that they're going to go sign keepers to push him, and try to make him a better goalkeeper. Were you kind of surprised by the comments by Jeff Birding regarding Mitch?
Well, I think I was more surprised by Koch's comments.
Yeah.
More so because he's the one that basically said, we talked to Mitch. We want him back, but he's not going to be guaranteed our number one. And that's a big deal for a guy who's, come in since day one. He's like, Hark said, you're the guy last year, this past season. Coach Koch, gave him pretty much a free roll, said you're the guy, and he's done great things. But the last half of the season, kind of after the U.S. Open Cup, he kind of failed a little bit. So I think it's good. You're pushing yourself. You always want somebody to come in and push you and make you better. Just as long as we're not running Alex Yersky there as his backup, we'll be fine. I love you, Yersky. I'm just joking with you. The off season, we're trying to have fun.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed we couldn't get him back. Maybe he's going to try to go up, but he's 28 years old, so I don't know if that time's passed or not. And I also think I don't want to be too harsh on him because I think he kind of got a bad rap for the performances the second half of the year because the guy was under pressure the entire season. It was garbage. He got a lot of the blame, but he led the league in saves and he led the league in shots faced. So it's I kind of felt like he was Andy Dalton right now for the Bengals is a comparison. The guy just getting destroyed back there. And you know what? If you keep getting blasted and having one-on-ones against you, that's probably going to sink into your confidence a little bit. And I think that's probably what we saw now. I'm not excusing the performance in the playoff game on some of those missed saves, but I think that he deserves a year back if he doesn't get a higher role somewhere.
Interesting thoughts. We'd love to hear from you, FC Cincinnati fans. Make sure you hit us up. Our email address, feedback@cincinnati.com. Like we mentioned earlier, we've got a new mailbag feature that we have introduced on our website at cincinnati.soccertalk.com that you can take part here this offseason. So make sure you chime in. Alan Koch immediately hitting the road. We knew, recruiting's kind of been his forte, especially when you look at what happened in the offseason a year ago, that he brings in GB and Manzare, and then Justin Hoyt. And then during the season, we've got Sem DeVitt and Kevin Schindler, who, by the way, is not coming back.
Thank God.
Kyle Grieg. So he's hitting the road early. What is he looking for?
I think he's got to be looking for a a potential replacement for Austin Berry in the back line. You know, we saw that he was one of those players that, you know, they're continuing discussions, and you know, if he might be gone, or if Harrison Delbridge is going to be gone, those are your two starting center backs, and you need to get some talent back there. And so that would be probably position 1A or 1B on my list.
Yeah, I mean, if not there, somewhere in the right winger or central attacking midfielder role, a 10. I mean, we need somebody that can get those individual moments of brilliance and get the ball up the field, help us maintain possession for more than 3 seconds, and go forward. So yeah, 2 huge roles to build the spine of the team, which I would have to believe that's where he's looking early.
And the players went back to work today. We saw some photos from FC Cincinnati's social media. A couple of guys missing in those photos, understandably so. But, you know, the season's not even over in the USL, and yet they are ready and getting back at it. I mean, what do you make of that? I mean, I know it's not something we saw a year ago. Obviously, there was some turnover late in the offseason, but does that excite you as a fan to see that guys are sticking around in town to get better for next year and get ready for next year?
Let me start here, Brad. So this is the one part of the press conference that I kind of got a little ticked off on, because Jeff Birding, for all the great things he does, he sometimes puts that political spin on certain things. So, you know, he's saying, oh, we're going to have, we didn't train at all. The guys had 4 months off last year. I talked to the guys. I've talked to several guys. I've talked to different insiders with the team. You know, they had camps. They worked out. They all had the off-season plans that Jeff Birding said they didn't have last year. Those are things that were in place in the past. Yeah, okay, yes, they might not have been, all the guys might not have been in town from the end of the season through Thanksgiving. Okay, but yes, they did have, I believe they said they had a November and a December and a January camp for players under contract. So these are different things that, while I'm excited they're in place, I don't know why they weren't in place in the past. Okay, yeah, you might have been laying things on Harks a little bit, but it's kind of excusable. And I think that you're kind of papering up some things that might not have actually been the problem. Now, the one thing I am excited for is the earlier preseason camp. You know, last year we saw, and Brad, I'm sure you saw this, is the Riverhounds were in camp like early January, you know, working time together. So that's something I'm excited to have them in camp this year. You know, last year, first day of training was February 1st. This year is going to be January 15th. So 2 weeks early, which is really, it's really only 1 week early because the season's moved up another week. So, yeah, good things there, but I'm not, you know, he's making them out like they're going to be huge game changers. And I'm a little offended that I don't believe that's really what it is.
Let me counter a little bit. And I don't know exactly what went on. We've heard some things, but I kind of equate it to football. And you have OTAs, you have optional trainings. I think this just gets sets the expectations from day one. This is what you're doing. This is what the plan is. You need to be here. It gets the front office and the coaching staff and the players all on the same page. They know what the expectations are from day one. I'm not sure if they were there or not last year. Sounds to me like they might not have been completely there. I think this year it starts that day one. They know they have to be here. They need to know they need to come in shape. They have personal workout plans. They have personal training plans. They have expectations of where to improve on. And I think it also allows for the coaching staff to catch errors a lot faster than they were this year. You know, this year we didn't have a backup to JB. We had a trade for Koenig early in the year. We were still looking for wingers, you know, midway through the season. We brought Josu in late. I think that having this training go through till at least Thanksgiving, and then starting January 15th, we have these practices. It just decreases the failure rate. You know what I'm saying? You know, if we see a player's not working out that we thought was going to work out, allows us the chance to bring another player in and get them in time before we go down to Florida. I know they said we're going down to Florida earlier. We're going to get back to Cincinnati earlier and do a little bit more as far as the scrimmages go. So I just think it narrows our scope for failure.
Yeah, I don't really know what to make of it. Part of me is, I guess, a little excited. Maybe. I think also, kind of a publicity thing. Personally, I think
Yes.
they're showing the fact that they're here early just to get the fan base fired back up. Like, hey, these guys mean business.
But
I think the
we
guys
we
were
had
already going to be working whether they were doing it in front of cameras or not.
we had two players though last year playing for the indoor team. I mean, that's not acceptable. They need to be in the FC Cincinnati training environment, and I think that that's not. I think we will have plans in place to make sure that those players get the reps, that they won't even think twice about going and playing for an indoor team that's not affiliated with the club. So, just kind of both sides of
Yeah.
it.
No, and I was bashing this, but you do have to give a little props to Carl Leonard because it costs money to have these guys in town right now. It costs money to put a roof over the head. It costs money to have the training staff there. I don't know if you're paying UC for practice field time. So those are additional things that we can show in the MLS expansion in the expansion process. Hey, we're trying to implement these things to be a well-rounded club. So yes, that in itself is a good thing. While I guess Jeff Brading said his role wasn't good enough in 2016, 2017. And it sure looks like they're at least trying to make those changes. He was never a soccer guy. He's a smart businessman. He wasn't involved with the youth soccer club, so it's a learning curve, and we need him to be at the top of the learning curve here in the next 24 to 36 months if we are going to be a MLS expansion club.
And speaking of MLS, they kind of mentioned it during that press conference last week about looking ahead to the 2018 season with maybe the eye on 2019. The question was asked basically, do you want to go out and spend a lot of money in the USL knowing that you're going to be possibly having to sign some designated players for Major League Soccer rosters, which is going to cost you a lot more than a USL roster will? And he didn't really shy away from it. He said, we're going to build the best possible roster we can for 2018. They're not going to shy away from going out and signing big name players this season. But they also know that they need to get younger and get more depth. Obviously, they don't have an academy just yet. That's still being built. So when it does come time to get into MLS, they've got something that they can back themselves up on in case the call comes early and they need to be ready by 2019. And he specifically said that during the press conference about possibly being ready for 2019. So do you read anything into that other than he's just being ready, or do you think there's a possibility that MLS has said, hey, could you be ready by 2019?
Well, if we can show MLS that we have 15 to 20,000 season ticket holders here in another month, I think that'll help. But I think there's, of course, some dialogue. Of course, we had the if you're listening on Monday, the Phantom David Beckham press conference announcement today. Y'all see that everybody got real excited. Oh, they're going to announce their club, and it ended up being a LA Galaxy themed shoe from Adidas. So I think it's a possibility, but is it something that's I think it's slim to none really.
Well, I think they're gonna try to sign the most competitive team they can sign right now. But Birding said in his option, is there some extra money set aside in case we do get that call to MLS and we might want to bring in a couple more experienced or higher quality players that we might want to take with us to MLS? And he said, yes, he'd like to. I think that issue would kind of take care of itself because, we're going to get high quality players now who want to play in the USL in front of a lot of fans. But then also too, if we get this nod in December saying, hey, you get a franchise. Oh, by the way, that's going to start in 2019 instead of 2020. I think you're going to have more season tickets. You're going to have more sponsorships coming in. You're going to generate a lot more income, which will then create a pot of money to be able to use to sign a player that might cost us 100, 200. I don't know if we'll spend $300,000 on a player for one season. Maybe I think Marcel Schaefer, or I think he might be earning that much for the Rowdies right now. But so I think that could help. I still think we might see a player of that caliber of a Marcel Schaefer no matter what. I think that Birding said in his press conference, look at the Rowdies, they've got Joe Cole and they've got these players they brought in from Europe. and we need to get players like that. So I think
Sure.
that's what Koch is doing right now. He's going to go all over the place to get players to replace, think about, we didn't talk about Jibby coming back or not. I'm sure he's on a salary. I mean, what say we can't even improve on that position with a foreign player?
Well, I was just thinking about what you were saying there and what Nick brought up earlier is, say we get that call in December. Right now, Koch is doing the homework. Rumor is he's going to Africa. He's going to Europe. Not sure exactly where. Of course, these are rumors that we hear and see on Reddit, Facebook, whatever. So if he's at least doing the homework and going over and seeing players that we at least might be able to bring on for a year to try out, maybe we pay him $150,000 for a tryout for 1 year and say, okay, yeah, you're going to be good enough for MLS, and we at least know that that's somebody that we can bring in when the time comes. I think that's beneficial. And again, if it's 1 year, if we cut him loose, at least he's not going to tie up that MLS roster spot that would maybe be an unknown.
If he's
but still, real quick, Nick, sorry. Still, if we don't get into MLS, I still think we're going to see a prominent player brought in.
Sure.
Well, that's what I was to ask. If he goes to Europe and if he goes to Africa, what is he looking for? Is he looking for somebody who's in their early 30s that is looking to make one last kind of paycheck that has experience? Or is he looking for 17, 18, 19-year-old kids that could, be that academy-type player? Or is it both?
I would probably venture to say it's going to be an older, more experienced player that would come over to a USL club. I'm not sure I see the need to take on an inherent risk of bringing a 17 or an 18-year-old from Europe or Africa over and playing them in the USL and not necessarily having all the availabilities that maybe an MLS club would have.
Well, we got bit a little bit with a couple youth players recently, Victor Mansarai.
I thought you were going the other way with the older player we brought in when you said bit.
Yeah, that's true. He said that age wasn't an option. Whoever's going to perform, and if you can get an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, 20-year-old that can perform just as good as a 28, 29, 30-year-old, great. But it said we need to worry about guys who can perform right away. It's not. Rumor has it, if we might be able to be taking a big. Never mind. I can't make the Columbus Crew Academy joke. I'd be wrong.
Wow.
I already did that one.
Yeah.
But no, seriously though, I mean, if we're looking to develop players, we have a huge pool of players locally within Northern Kentucky and the Dayton area and Cincinnati area that I think we can pull from for our academy. So I'm not sure that we necessarily need to spend a whole lot of money to bring somebody overseas that's an 18-year-old. I'd rather have them be an older, experienced player who knows what he's getting into and take our money in development, our development academies between Kings, Hammer, and Cup and all that, and let them handle the development. That's what they're good at. We don't need to necessarily, without academy in place, without practice fields, all that, I just don't see the need to carry that risk.
I mean, I was thinking we'd bring Subs to Cincy and he can be the youth coordinator.
Hey, they need a new an PA announcer, Subs. Got to sign you up for that, right?
Thank God.
Do we need to do like some sort of hashtag?
Man. He's out. What the heck, John?
Arson Dubridge. Sorry, that was not even Australian.
Wow.
I could do a Koch accent.
Yeah, Central defender from down under. That was the worst ever.
Yeah, so I just saw Josh Gobby. Columbus called you to go to the game tomorrow. You couldn't afford a flight to Austin. That's amazing. I got called twice today for tickets for the Columbus game. So
mean.
I feel bad. Sorry. So if you're not online right now, Josh said Columbus called me to go to the game tomorrow, but I had to tell them I couldn't afford a flight to Austin on such short notice.
Where's the brother. Drum rim shot when you need it? That was good.
Yeah, we've been really nice. I feel we've tried to be really nice in this whole situation. Support the Columbus Crew fans. This is what we should, but it's not looking too great, sadly.
No.
I hope it turns out better.
Before we move on, obviously we know there are still some signings that the team is going to make. They're still obviously in negotiations with some guys who were with this club a year ago. But if you had to pick one specific name for next season that you want them to bring in, who would you like them to see? Or who would you like to see them bring in?
Brad,
From
do you have a
outside.
couple names?
From outside,
Yeah,
right?
from outside FC Cincinnati.
I mentioned earlier in the show that if there was a position that I could go out and get a player, it would be to make sure we have cover in case we can't bring back Austin Berry or Harrison Delbridge. So I know that Orlando City is going through some changes. There's rumors they may or may not play with their B club, and I really liked Zach Carroll. He was a 6'3" center back who played for the New York Red Bulls too last year, and he put a lot of good time at Orlando this year. And he was the second round pick of the Red Bulls in 2016. I'd like to see him brought in.
Mm-hmm. He was released.
He was released by the parent club and signed by the Baby Bulls 2 last year. He played the whole season with the Baby Bulls, then he played with Orlando this year. So
yeah, and then Orlando just released him last week.
Yeah, I know. That's why I picked the name, Brian.
Yeah.
Catch up.
No, I get out of here. Actually, I thought you were going to say another defender from that roster, and Seb Hines.
Yeah, so did I.
He's on He's on $150,000 a year. We ain't bringing in Seb Hines.
Why not?
Yeah, exactly.
$150K for him.
Absolutely.
I would do that.
You're wrong. You're wrong, Bradley. I love you, but you're wrong.
I don't know.
Yeah, you saw what he did in our matches versus him. So I'm going to take a different route, but I'm going to take more of that fringe MLS player. I'm a guy that is in previous shows. I said I want to focus on guys just rotating out of a club, rotating out of an MLS roster. And Carroll's kind of on that level, not as much as this player, Tsubasa Endo, out of Toronto FC. He's played a couple matches. I want to say he's played like 10 matches or so with Toronto FC this year, 14 matches with Toronto FC. He played 4 MLS matches, and I think he did like 15 MLS matches in 2016. But he's a guy who I'd really like to see. He can play right wing. He can play central midfielder. Just a guy who's 24 years old is one of these guys that we can grow with us, potentially be that fringe player when we get to MLS. So I think he qualifies both roles, and he's on like $50,000 a year.
Real quick before you get to yours, Nick, I want to drop one more name because you're talking about fringe MLS players, and this club, this player, he did awesome in the USL. He led his team in scoring. He was called up internationally, but there's no way he's going to break through to his main team. There's just way too many players right now in Atlanta.
Joseph Martinez.
And I would love. What a better pickup for FC Cincinnati. Let's replace Gibby and bring in Romario Williams from Charleston. The guy can put the ball in the back of the net. He's making a decent salary down there. And if I'm him, I'm stuck. I'm not getting an Atlanta squad. There might be a chance that I can break through in Cincinnati in a year. Why doesn't FC Cincinnati knock on Atlanta's door and try to bring Romario up here?
Good call.
I've got a couple different names, and I agree, Brad. That's a really good idea, considering he's going to have a real tough time breaking into that Atlanta roster.
It's not a slight against him. It's just that attack squad is just stacked.
Yeah, they're really good. So good they lost to the Crew in the playoffs. Wait, what? Anyway, so for me, we've kind of talked about it. I feel like ad nauseum about the team lacking that playmaker type midfielder, that number 10 that could sit in behind the strikers and distribute and just make everybody all around much better. Somebody, the guy who comes to mind, and I'm not saying they need to go get him, but somebody like a Sasha Kleshtin for the Red Bulls who makes everybody around them better. He's a good distributor of the ball. They need a number 10, and I got to give props to Bry. I asked him who the best number 10 in the league is, and he said Enzo Martinez from Charlotte. I would like to see him. But that's kind of a package deal, isn't it, Bry?
Absolutely. I would think so. Just with his brother Alex, left wing player. But, man, they're tough to beat. They're pacey. They're creative. The only thing is I actually know Alex personally. I think he's actually a great guy. A little bit different on the field. He's kind of a bonehead. Lovingly, I say that.
So he'd fit in right here in Cincinnati.
We need that blue collar mentality. We need a guy that puts that dirt on his pants. The Pete Rose guy that just gets in people's faces. When have we had a guy that's just got up in people's grill and just gone after him? We need that mentality on this team.
Jibby
and those
Biddick
guys
guy.
bring it. Oh shit.
Yeah. You talk about bringing a show to a screeching halt. Way to go. You guys are successful at that. So, yeah, there's a couple guys. I'd also like to see them go get Antoine Hopino. Wait, what? I'm kidding, of course. Let's play the what if game, right? You talk about the fringe MLS guys. Is there a chance that Sean Okoli is not making New York City FC next season? He didn't get a lot of playing time this year. Clearly, he's going to be trying to get by David Villa, who's pretty good. Is there a chance that he's not making that MLS roster next season and maybe could bounce back to USL after kind of really sitting a lot this year?
I mean, I kind of put this up on Facebook as a little bit of a joke, but I mean, why not? I mean, he's familiar with this area. The only thing is, I think he was more of a John Harkes guy, and I could see him not returning just because John Harkes isn't back. But, I mean, yeah, people knock on him for his PK goals, but at least he drew the PKs. He got in the box and made things happen. So if we get a center midfielder that can give him a little bit better service or even better wingers, yeah, might as well. Let's try it.
And guess what? He stayed on the field. He didn't get red cards and didn't bite people. Nothing?
Oh,
Really?
shoot.
When I say
was
something
laughing.
funny? Wow, man. Crickets.
No, we're laughing over here.
Yeah, I can hear it. Anyway, we want to hear from you folks. Feedback at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. Is there a specific player that you would like to see FC Cincinnati bring in this offseason?
Can I offer something up real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
Guys, if you're listening right now, email us at feedback at Cincinnati Soccer Talk. We'll do this as a mailbag. If you give us a name or two, and some of the best names that you give us, we'll actually put on our 2017-2018 big board that'll be coming out here in a couple weeks. Once players that FC Cincinnati could sign. We did this last year, so give us some names who you'd like to see brought back and why, and we'll try to put this out on a mailbag this week or next week.
Speaking of mailbag, we got these emails from last week. This is from Sean Pace and Igor. Given the statements earlier this week, Jeff Birding has indicated that resources are available to significantly overhaul and improve FC Cincinnati for 2018. Question is, how would you approach utilizing a budget on player acquisition and signing? For example, would it be better to land 2 massive signings or 6 solid ones? Meaning, so like 2 $300,000 signings or 6 $100,000 signings?
I'm going to say 2 $300,000 ones, because I think that the difference between a $50,000 and a $100,000 player isn't much, but the difference between a $100,000 and a $300,000 player is quite a bit different as far as the ability to influence a game on the pitch.
I mean, Seb Hine versus Sem DeVitt, I think there's a pretty big difference there.
Dang.
God, we are really, yeah.
He's
Someone
coming
said,
back.
Is this Cincinnati Soccer Talk or USL Trash Talk? Oh, that's funny. No, I mean, I like
Trust the process.
quantity. Trust the process. I like quantity. Dude, my wife loves listening to him talk. I probably need to stop that. I think that quantity, like 6, if you can bring 6 guys at $100,000, I mean, yeah, it's so subjective. What do you really get out of it? But I think if you can bring in, guys like, you saw it with the Deshaun Brown, what's the defender for Tampa Bay earlier in this year that transferred away. I think if you can bring 6 guys like that, I think that could be pretty big for FC Cincinnati.
They're at a spot now where they kind of need depth. I see what you're saying, Brad, about the difference in talent from a 300,000 to a 100,000. Can I do like 1 300,000 and 3 100,000?
Cheater.
Okay, so let's look at this. Brad, you brought up like Orlando City B, and I'm not saying this guy is going to be gone because I think he's going to replace the Kyle Larin when he leaves. A guy like a Haji Berry, he's going to be
He's on my
25.
list.
Yeah, he's going to be 25. Somebody who's I guarantee he's probably making 100,000. We could probably get
62.
Okay, so yeah, give him a raise, man. I'd love to see a guy like that on our squad.
Mm-hmm.
Our own Ket Hetker is saying Damian Lowe.
Yes, thank you.
Yep.
I think we still need to go get mixed disc group, but that's just me.
Apparently, he's walking around the Oakley Kroger with watermelons
Yeah,
in his
Oakley
cart.
Kroger with a watermelon. Yeah, me and him got a selfie together.
Anyway,
without the watermelon.
Thank you, Sean and Iger, for the email. Again, if you want to email us, feedback@CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. We also got this Twitter question from at the David, and I'm butchering your name, David. I'm sorry, David Ide, maybe.
I think that's right.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of suggesting to FC Cincy management that they forego hosting an international friendly in 2018? I think hindsight's a little 20/20 on this. I think had they known that they were going to be playing in the semifinal of the U.S. Open Cup, they might have been willing to forego the friendly. But I also think that they've kind of set the tone with this international friendly every year now. I like the fact that they're going out and finding these teams across Europe to come in. Now, I personally wasn't all that excited about the Valencia matchup. Personally, I'm not a fan of La Liga, especially knowing what I know. So.
What, that they're second in La Liga right now?
No. About what could have been last year.
I don't even understand how.
They got a good team.
Anyway.
David, thank you for the question. And my thought about this is, as long as it still serves a purpose. And right now, I think it does still serve a purpose, not necessarily on the field product, but getting another big name in here and still continuing to keep the club, on the front page of the newspaper and keeping it, in everybody's eye. And these big names do still serve a purpose of getting people to Nippert, opening up that portfolio of people who are interested in coming down to the matches and seeing what's going on. So, if we start booking middling Liga MX clubs, no, I don't think it serves a purpose. But if we can continue to pull from some of the biggest leagues in the world, Italy, Spain, Germany, England, France, maybe, I'm all for it to drum up interest in this club. But like I said, if it slips and we don't get a quality opponent to match the quality of what we bring to Nippert, then I would say that's the point in time you scrap it.
Let's do math here. What's 30 times $30,000? Average ticket price probably $30 for that game. $900,000. Okay, let's say you give a huge team $500,000. You got $100,000 in game expenses, and then you got $300,000 to give to a player, or you can spread it over a couple players. We've seen this name out of Josh Gabi, who's been blowing us up, Berbatov. Not saying that's a smart move, but that's a guy you can pay all that money to.
We don't need more Indian tweets from the Kerala Blasters. Okay,
seriously,
calm down over there.
100% accurate, but yeah, that's $300,000, $250,000 you can throw at a big name and bring into FC Cincinnati.
Bring in Dortmund. Pulisic will probably join him this year because he's not going to have anything to do this summer. Yeah.
He believes Cup serves a purpose. He believes Cup. We can host a game. FC Cincinnati versus Dortmund. He believes Cup. Mark it down. Somebody needs to pay me $500,000 to be the marketing guy for that.
Oh my gosh. Mike Berryman on YouTube echoes your sentiments about getting Dortmund here to Cincinnati. I think it would be good to get a German club. I also like that they're kind of spreading it around as far as the different countries. I'd like to see them go after a French team, Italian, rotate it every other year. Try to change it up and make it different. I think that's good. So, I'm also not opposed to them skipping it. Like, I'm not all that heartbroken about it, but as long as it's a good quality opponent that gets people talking and fills the
I
stadium.
don't think the diehards would miss it. Yeah, I don't think the guys who come to 15 games a year would miss it.
Yeah, I'm just wondering who will come to America in a World Cup year. So that's another thought.
Good question. That I guess we'll find out this upcoming summer, and I'm sure that Jeff Birding and company, because they're a selling club, right, Bri?
Get out of here. Their team is literally going to be like,
oh, here it comes.
England's going to be like 4 or 5 players, starters from Spurs, and the other 2 are going to be former Spurs. So,
yeah.
It's not ripping them too hard.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Anyway, moving on. Let's talk about the USL playoffs. The semifinals are set. It's going to be the Swope Park Rangers against the OKC Energy, and that team down south against the Baby Bulls in the Eastern Conference. Do we want to see the MLS 2 teams in the finals again like we did last year?
Please no. Actually, I wouldn't mind a 2-team being a representative from the Eastern Conference.
Ooh. I think that the 2 teams have, people knock on them a lot, especially a certain publication that covers NASL and not USL and thinks they know about USL. They think that 2 teams can't be good just because they're reserve teams. There's so much talent on the Baby Bulls, man. I love watching them play. Yes, I don't like watching them play in a half-filled stadium, or not even half-filled, a 1,000-person stadium. But there's just it's an awesome game to watch. It's open. They're fun. So I don't mind that, especially because I don't want Louisville to be in the finals. No offense, but Louisville, take your streamers, flush them down the toilet, get out of here. I don't care. So yeah, good. That's fine, New York. But at the same point, I think some people that knock USL say it's a reserve league, but at the end of the day, don't you want the best team winning your league? And if it's a reserve team that's the best team, win the darn league. I mean, that's fine.
I'm rooting for anybody other than that team down south.
There you go.
So let's talk about the Brickyard Battalion. They are the supporters group, or one of the supporters groups for the Indy 11. They've been calling on them to join the USL. There was a TIFO there the other night at their home game. Your thoughts on this and what seems to be I don't know if downfall is the right word, but it just doesn't, here we are again in the off season of USL. Well, not technically the off season, but it is for, unfortunately for FC Cincinnati fans. But here we go again with the NASL.
I'll let Brian go because he smacked him down pretty good on Twitter. No. I didn't smack down the Brickyard. I smacked down a couple other people inadvertently. I tried to do it a nice way. So I think that it would make perfect sense for Indy 11 to jump to USL, just because the local rivalries are going to be great for the club. I think it's going to make their club, their attendance is going to come out, which will bring more sponsors. I mean, did you guys see the crowd that they had this past weekend in their 5th game versus North Carolina FC this year? I mean, it was nobody there. And so just churn through people, develop the rivalries. I think it'd make a lot of sense. Now, there's a lot of politics aside why things can't, they just can't jump over to our league. But I just think it would make a lot of sense for Indianapolis, just as a brand, as a club, to be in a region where their fans can travel to St. Louis, to Pittsburgh, to Louisville, to Cincinnati. And it just makes too much sense. Except for the $5 million that I would tell them to spend. Yeah. I'm not going to get into the pro rel debate, because people always go NASL versus USL and all, one's a true league and one's not a true league. BS. Right now, the NASL, these clubs are losing money hand over fist. Their traveling expenses is garbage. These clubs, you're flying from Indy to Edmonton. Okay, guess what? There's no direct flights to Edmonton. You're going to have to fly to here, to here, to here. You spend a full day going out, a full day going back. That's, 2 days travel. That's at least a day's worth of lost practice time. So you're hurting your product. And versus, here you have a 2-hour drive. So, I like that the Brickyard Battalion did it. It's going to, hopefully it encourages their owner to make the move, and we'll see what's going on with the NASL injunction. There might not be a NASL Division 2 anymore, and then come over here for whatever the cost would be to USL to join. But I like that they're doing it. I would love to have a Circle City rival over there, and so yeah, come on board. And I think it only stands to improve that club. I don't know how moving to USL, unlike some people, they say it would hurt. I just don't see it.
I mean, I'm just interested to see what's going to happen with Lucy, my wife. She's an Indy native. So does she divide the household?
Mm-hmm.
Well, for me, I just think we don't know what division NASL is going to be in.
Yeah, but even if FC Cincinnati jumps to MLS, Indy will still have Louisville. There's still going to be a bunch of clubs in the Midwest that are within driving distance.
Columbus.
St. Louis. Yeah, so stop. St. Louis may or may not. Nashville may or may not. There's going to be plenty of local rivalries within a 2 to 4 hour drive that club their fans can drive to, and our fans can drive to as well. Versus now, they got to hop on a plane. They got to go to North Carolina and go to Raleigh. Who wants to do a road trip to Raleigh? No offense, not me. And so it just stands to help their club. It's going to drum up interest, and rivalries do grow the sport.
Sure.
Look at Louisville. Look at, they packed their house. They had 10,000 fans, 11,000. They had 12 or 13,000. I think the game that we were kicked out of. It only stands to benefit them. And then when you have rivalries, it draws more interest. It draws more people to those games, and then those people have a greater chance of returning back to that stadium to watch other games. So come on board, Indy. We'd love to have you.
Can we stop talking about attendance, guys?
No. Why? Until the day I see our ticket printed to MLS, that's the day I'm going to stop talking about attendance.
Wait, so you don't think Columbus knows that we draw 20,000+ fans a game?
I don't give a shit.
Oh,
We got to let everybody know we continue to draw every single person to these games, that they're paying to go to these games. I mean, why? I don't understand it. I don't care. It's not being an uppity soccer fan, that we're talking about how much fan support. That's what draws people here. That's, people in Cincinnati. Oh, did you hear FC Cincinnati drew 30,000 people? Oh, I might want to go to a game. I think if that's an asset, we need to continue to sell it. It's not us being pretentious. It's just an asset that our club that we need to continue to sell. We have all the support. There's a lot of great things happening. Get down to the game. And guess what, too? MLS, we just had 20,000 people come to a Wednesday night game when it was 50 degrees and raining. The Crew got about 8,000 people up there right now. No offense, but seriously, come on. Until we, if we have that as our asset, continue to sell it.
Brian, let me throw this at you, because I think maybe this is where you're going with this. I feel like it takes away from the fact that this team underachieved. Like the pundits aren't talking about how badly this team underachieved this year because of all the great things that are happening in the stands. I genuinely think that that's what happens. The spin is that this team is destined for MLS because of their attendance, but like on the field, it was mediocre.
So, okay, that's fine, but I'm just disappointed when I see all the time that we had a great year because we had attendance. We had 30,000 people for Chicago, and that was a great year for FC Cincinnati because of this. I don't want it to mean anything that our club does, that they work hard to do. Jeff Smith and his crew are phenomenal. They're the best in the business of what they
agree.
do. But I want to turn the page. This is 2018. We're not the junior club anymore. We're in our third year. We need to be at that level where we're talking about the on-field product. I mean, the only time they talk about attendance at Bengals games, really, it's just a joke around. I mean, I want to know what I want to hear. Yeah, FC Cincinnati beat Louisville City 4-1, not FC Cincinnati drew 30,000. Oh, and by the way, they won 4-1.
Okay, first of all, don't you think Jeff Birding and Alan Koch know that their product on the field sucked for the majority of this season? And number two, we've got to play the game we're here to play. And our game we're here to play right now is to get to MLS. That's the ultimate goal right now. It may not be for some of the diehards who want to win the USL Cup, but our ultimate goal is to get to MLS. and selling our club as a team that's going to pack the stands, that's going to have eyeballs in the television. That's what we need to sell. So, Alan Koch, I'm confident Alan Koch and Jeff Birding are going to fix the on-the-field product, but we still need to continue to support the club. And I don't think it's outrageous for our fans to continue to beat the drum about how we are continuing to support this club day in and day out, especially when we're what we would be 8th in attendance in MLS right now. That's a huge selling point.
Fair enough. Interesting take. We'd love to hear from you, of course. Feedback at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. Last but not least, don't forget we've got the Keep Hell Real FIFA tournament coming up on November 11th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Rhinehouse. Check out the Cincinnati Soccer Talk Twitter, or check out the Keep Hell Real Facebook event page for more information. And I know next week, we kind of teased it last week on the podcast. We've got a special guest coming on the show next week. Bri, you want to fill us in?
Absolutely. So the one thing that Cincinnati people have been yearning for is what's going on with this World Cup. What's Cincinnati doing? What's FC Cincinnati doing? Well, we actually have the board chair for the Cincinnati Sports Commission, Jackie Rao, coming on our show next Monday night. We're going to be doing a special Monday night episode again. She's basically the person who's in charge of all the PR and basically in charge of the commission working on the World Cup site bid for Cincinnati. So she's going to come on, talk to you guys about what's going on with this World Cup bid, how FC Cincinnati can get a game, what they can do around the city to encourage, activities in that 2026 World Cup if the United States would win that unified bid. So, I think it'd just be an exciting interview, something to learn a little bit more about what your city is doing to grow the game of soccer. So definitely check that out next Monday.
How ironic would it be that the city that built soccer in the state of Ohio in 2026 can't host a World Cup game and Cincinnati could? I mean, I never thought in a million years that would ever happen.
Yep. I mean, even in our region, think about take Indiana out of there, or Indianapolis out of there. I mean, it's just Pittsburgh, I think, is out of there too, right? So it's between
Pittsburgh's out, Cleveland's out.
Cleveland's out.
Yeah, Cleveland's out. So it's like Nashville,
Detroit, and Nashville.
Yeah, and Chicago. Yep. So I think it's awesome. So I think that this is just a unique look where people really aren't covering right now. I think this is going to be an opportunity for everybody to get out there and learn a little bit more about it through our program.
So that'll be next week. Looking forward to having a little fun conversation with Jackie Rao, however we say it. We'll learn how to say her last name by the time we do the show next week, hopefully. That'll be good. I'm really looking forward to get her thoughts on the process to securing Cincinnati as part of that unified bid for the 2026 World Cup. And the good news is if we host the World Cup, well, we don't have to qualify. Hey-oh.
There we go.
All right.
Do we, though?
Well, maybe by then the rules will change.
Well, 48 teams, we better freaking qualify.
All right. I think that's going to do it for episode 89 as we begin to wrap things up. Your final thoughts, Brad Weigel?
Hey, I just wanted to thank everybody for listening and especially going into this off season. There's gonna be a lot going on. We're gonna, like I said, we're gonna be doing a lot to cover a wide variety of different things around town with soccer, including that, especially the EPL and our boy Clay Benjamin, who launched his new series. Going to be coming out mostly on I would say Monday or Tuesdays. Make sure to catch it. He's doing a great job. So thank you to Clay. And if there are things that you want to see covered, reach out to us and we'll do our best to help. That the EPL roundtables, Kevin Jackson from LFC Cincinnati, he came to us and said, hey, I'd love to see this. Can you help me? And so if you have good ideas like the roundtable, Clay came to us and said he wants to do a weekly article on the EPL. Come to us and we'll talk and see how we can best help execute that plan and grow soccer in the city. So thank you, Subs.
Yeah, no problem. Good stuff, Brad. Glad to have you back. Glad we got to utilize the.
You have a dog in the background.
Yeah, Madden has decided to, video bomb us now. I don't know what he wants. Hi, Madden.
I didn't see the puppy.
All right, then. Final thoughts, Brian Weigel?
Distracted by your dog, man. Nice. Guys, make sure to check out that Keep Hell Real FIFA tournament. We keep tweeting it out every day. Got a nice retweet from Taylor Tolman today, so that was pretty cool. But honestly, guys, give the support to Columbus Crew fans. I think we all kind of feel feel for them and what's going on up there. Yeah, we might not necessarily support that club, but supporting those fans is the right thing to do, and making sure they're not taking advantage, because that could happen for us. And I think it's the right thing to do regardless of how you feel about that said club. So make sure to get out there, and if you can get to that event, that would be great. And hopefully we'll see you out there and do more events with Cincinnati Soccer Talk.
Do we want to make anything of what Taylor Twellman tweeted today about Columbus and Cincinnati?
Oh my gosh. So Taylor Twellman today said if Columbus moves to Austin, FC Cincinnati should purchase the rights to Columbus Crew SC and should make them our affiliate.
I'm against it.
Yeah, I don't want anything to do with moving Columbus, because I think anything that we touch would be negative. So I think only we should ever really do is support the hell out of them. And I still think the strongest position FC Cincinnati will ever be in MLS is if Columbus Crew is there. If us and Columbus Crew are together, I think that makes our relationship so much stronger, the heated rivalry, and I think that'll make FC Cincinnati better for the long haul.
I just don't want to be an MLS club and have to travel to a USL club and lose. I mean, that would just be the worst.
Oh my God.
All right. Clearly, if you can't hear it in the background, my dog is going ape. Someone in my house failed, and the dog is here in my basement. With that said, I'm going to
playing a prank on you.
Yeah, no kidding. Madden, just relax. Just relax.
It's okay, Nick. We don't hear.
I know that. It's just stressful.
Nick is going to as Halloween as a treat dispenser.
Anyway, my final thoughts as we get out of here. Again, thank you so much for supporting our show. I didn't even get a chance to. I completely forgot to give a shout out to our massive supporters: Matt Adamczyk, Tim Bronsel, Pat Suberling, Mama Subs, Jamie Smed, Mike Hudson, and Jonas Tom for supporting us. You can do that by going to CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support. We've got some really special plans coming up in the month of December for everybody that supports our show that we're really looking forward to putting together. Let's just say it involves a partay. Yeah, I think so.
Beer.
That too. So be on the lookout for that. It's not too late to join.
Results painting.
It's not too late to join and become a supporter. CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support. If you do listen to the show, make sure you rate and review the show on iTunes as well. CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/iTunes. Get subscribed. That's the biggest thing, is get subscribed to the show so you don't miss a single episode. If you can't make our live show, I know we've kind of moved the schedule around the last few weeks due to some scheduling conflicts and whatnot. We typically do this on Tuesday nights at 8, but if you can't make the live show, and we appreciate everybody who does, get subscribed to the podcast so you automatically get that MP3 file downloaded to your device each and every week so you don't miss a single minute of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. All right, that's going to do it for episode 89. For the Weigel twins, Brad and Brian, I'm Subs, reminding you to watch your tackles, and we will see you all next week.